All right, the midweek MPs have returned to their power play positions for the first time in 2018, and there's a whole new world here in Ottawa. Marco Mendicino, the Parliamentary Secretary, Karen Vecchio, Conservative MP from London, Ontario, and Tracy Ramsey, the NDP MP for Essex. Welcome back. Nice to have you with us.
See you, Don.
Wow. Okay, I don't know where to begin here. Karen, I guess I want to start with you. Rick Dykstra, he ran the last election. When you heard about these allegations and that he still was greenlit to run again, what was your reaction?
To be honest, I was very shocked. I'm really proud of how our leader is going to move forward on this. I think it's really important that we are vetting all of our candidates from all political parties. You know, no party is immune from this, but I am shocked that that did go ahead. And I'm really proud of Andrew and how he's going to be handling this. It needs to be looked at, and we need to make sure that things like this do not exist. There's got to be a zero tolerance policy. And so I'm very proud of how we're going to be moving forward. Looking back, yeah, I'm shocked. And many of the other members who were fellow MPs with him during his time up to 2015 were very shocked as well and had no idea. So it's definitely a hard pill to swallow today.
Yeah, and the issue is still a little difficult to deal with because you wonder if you do a vetting process, how you catch this kind of thing. I mean, until a woman steps forward, or a man, I guess, and says, this is what happened in my experience, who's going to volunteer that information to a Greenlight committee, Marco?
Well, let me start in a place where I think all of us should be united. That for far too long, women and victims have found it too hard to come forward and tell their stories. Right. And we need to work together to create a safe space where they can be listened to, where they can be heard, and where they can be supported. And our government is committed to that. We're doing that legislatively. But it's not just here on the Hill. I mean, this occurs in the workplace, it occurs in our communities, and we need to change the culture around how we treat each other with dignity. And so all I can tell you is that we're committed to doing that, and we'll keep working at it.
But I do want to try and deal with the Rick Dykstra situation, though, Tracy. I mean, realistically, if a woman hadn't come forward, he could have been doing all kinds of these sorts of misconducts and misbehaviors, and no one would have been the wiser. How does a vetting process find out about it?
It is very difficult. I mean, we have to respect people who have been in this situation and the women. If they choose not to come forward for whatever reason, then we have to accept that that choice is what's best for them. So it's very difficult to dig these things out in a vetting process. But what's happening here is very important. The culture is changing. All of our parties are addressing these issues. We're addressing this in the House. We spoke on it. I gave a speech on Monday. You know, we're talking about how we can improve this workplace for everyone so that there is zero tolerance, because there is no immunity to this. You know, we're human beings, but this has to end. We have to create a safe workplace here where anyone can come on this Hill and know that they are not going to be harassed in any way. And in particular for young women, and I think about those 338 young women that came to the Daughters of the Vote last year, that sat there, that were so inspiring and passionate about wanting a career in politics. And we need to ensure that when they get here, that it's a safer space than it is today. This is a constant work in progress.
Can I just build on that? Because I think if there is a silver lining, I think we were all really pleased to see that Bill C-65 was accelerated through the legislative process. It's gone straight to committee now for close study, and this is all about changing the culture. And I'm really proud of the representative that we had from my riding on the Equal Voice in the Parliament last year, so thanks for bringing that up.
I'm also really proud of our new House Leader, Ruth Ellen Brasso, for bringing that. We have 3 women House Leaders in the House right now. That's incredible.
Oh, good.
It's excellent, and I think that this good work comes out of their collaboration.
I guess I'm hung up on the logistics here. Marco, if you're asked the question, have you ever done anything sexually inappropriate?
Yeah.
And you had, would you admit it to a Greenlight committee that was going to say immediately, you're not running for us?
Well, first of all,
or you hope for the best that no one ever...
I haven't.
No.
And you know, I like to treat my colleagues with the dignity and the respect, and I'm fortunate in that I have a lot of positive relationships, and I think the relationships on the Hill actually make us better people. They make us better representatives. But I come back to what I said in my introductory answer to you, and that is, this isn't just about vetting. It's about where we work, where we live, where we congregate together, and we have to work together to try and remove the systemic barriers which have prevented women and victims from coming forward. You know, as somebody who worked in the criminal justice system, I saw it there. I saw it in underreporting. As a parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Justice and conducting roundtables across the country, we've heard it from victims groups right across the country from coast to coast. We have to use this moment And there is a reckoning that's been a long time coming, but we have an opportunity now to do right by women, by young girls, and by all victims.
Should you not re-vet all Liberal MPs now and ask them that question?
Well,
They
I
didn't
think
get that question asked the first go round.
That could be part of the training.
Yeah.
You guys are getting
training,
You guys are all getting grandfathered. But
We
anyway.
need extensive training.
I wouldn't say that.
I was
No, these-
grandfathered.
The training that we currently have in the House is inadequate. It really is. I come from a unionized environment. We had a 40-hour training for people that were in executive positions in locals, and this is incredibly important. When you create this culture, you do your very best to make sure that you have every tool being used to prevent this from happening, and it's very important. But there's another piece to this, Dawn, and it really is that there are these whisper campaigns that exist where women warn other women about particular men, where men warn women about men that they're aware of. That has to stop, and so we have a responsibility when we see that behavior to challenge it at its very root.
Are you two part of that? Have you whispered to each other, maybe not directly to each other, but do you have that in the Conservative caucus, that women feel uncomfortable around certain men?
But to be honest, within my caucus, I could stand beside probably every single one of them. I mean, I haven't vetted them all personally, but I feel very, very comfortable with all of the men in the House of Commons, to be honest. As Marco said, it's about building relationships.
Okay.
I really look at the fact that we have a higher standard to live up to, and as members of Parliament, we don't always do that. And I'm the first one to say that sometimes we fall short on what Canadians deserve, and that we should be doing them better. And so, yeah, we have to have a higher standard. We need to be accountable, and we're not going to be leading out of this unless we are the ones to help
You want
do
to
it.
jump in,
Yeah,
Jason?
there's a power dynamic at play here. I'm not concerned for MPs, to be honest. This is an issue for MPs, but we are actually the ones in the positions of power here. Senators as well. We have to talk about both sides of this House. And I'm really concerned for everyone who works on this Hill, who is either, protected by, some collective agreements or not protected, right down to our pages, our volunteers. This is, a powerful place. Right. And some people can be influenced by that power. And it is very, it's very disheartening to see that it's being abused in certain ways.
I don't want to belittle what goes on, but Andrew Scheer made an interesting quote on his thing. He said, nothing ever happens in Ottawa after 8 p.m. that's any good. He said, I try and live by that. So is the sort of the interaction and the booze and all that stuff, Tracy, is that a problem here in Ottawa in your view?
If you're a person who's respectful to other people and you are out at receptions, then I don't believe that's a problem for you. Mm-hmm. I believe that people are out in the evening. We certainly have a lot of stakeholders on the Hill. We have films being shown. We have parliamentary groups that get together. There's a lot of work that happens here on the Hill at night that's very important to our constituents and to Canadians. And I believe it's about an individual's behavior. It's not about the environment. It's not an excuse to say that because there is free alcohol or because there is, activities that take place at night, that somehow that's the reason this behavior's happened. This behavior's happened because individuals have chosen to behave that way.
Karen?
Tracy, she nailed it there. I think the thing is we have choices, and at the end of the day, we choose how we present ourselves. There are lots and lots of functions. There's lots of alcohol. We choose whether we're going to take part. I go to some of the receptions if they have to do with my portfolio or if people from the riding are there. And you won't see me drinking on the Hill because I'm there to represent the people. And I think I always have to remember that. And I hope all members remember that. Our job is to represent the people. And you do know I have heard different stories, and I have an assistant who has always said, our job is not to go there and not just be eating and drinking. And that's that's the way I've always worked it. And that's the way that I think it should be.
I may have seen you in 1 or 2 bars, but not very often.
Well, and always on my best behavior, but
Yeah.
just, fitting and appropriate, I think, for me to say nothing much to add. And I think we need to end this discussion where we began it, which is a place of common ground. And I look forward to working with my colleagues on all sides of the House.
So have you
towards this.
returned to Ottawa on January, whatever it was you came back on? Did you sense things had changed? Had something changed? Tracy?
Yeah, I feel it. I feel there's a change, there's a shift. We're having conversations that we haven't previously had, and they're just so incredibly important. I'm happy to see these things coming to light, as painful as it is for the women, the brave women who are bringing these things forward. It's going to improve this place, and that's always something that we need to strive for.
And it's probably not over. What are you feeling?
I think for us, on Monday, I was waiting for another shoe to fall. You just didn't know what was happening. You don't know the energies and all the synergies that were going on. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's right now, it has changed. As of Monday when we came back, I think that there has been that dynamic that, hey, you're being watched. you better be on top of everything.
Well, and that's a positive thing, you know, and I think that's something that needs to occur, is that this moment has to come to light, and we need to shine a light on this together and work towards changing the culture.
One thing that hadn't changed, you guys came back to question period. I don't want to deviate from the topic, but it's a good topic. But I think we should look at what's going on in the House this week. And that's basically a question period of one issue conservatives getting one answer from the Liberals on Justin Trudeau's AgaCon vacation last year that was ruled unethical by the commissioner. And you're demanding he pay back the money.
Absolutely.
The Trudeau government responds almost in a scripted, verbatim way that he dealt with the issue, he accepted it, he apologized, he's going to clear his vacations henceforth. End of topic. I'm curious why you're flogging that issue when you know you're not going to get a different answer. It's like asking the same question and expecting a different answer. It doesn't happen.
Well, first of all, let's look at the fact that the details of what happened on this commissioner's report came out prior to Christmas. So we just returned for the first time where we could actually ask the Prime Minister on behalf of Canadians as members of Parliament in the House of Commons to answer those questions. So although it's been an extended period of time since we've known, those questions have not been asked. At the end of the day, when you see somebody like Minister Philpott pay money back, and when you see different things that have occurred, I do believe that taxpayers' money has to be respected. And whether he's saying it's a family vacation or that he needs security, we have to recognize that we owe it to the taxpayers, and that's why we'll continue to ask for him to do so. I believe that there's many issues, but I do expect him to.
There's a lot of big issues, and that seems to be a relatively
There are many,
small
many
one,
issues as well, and I do agree.
And why shouldn't the Prime Minister pay back? He did tell Jane Philpott, pay back, you know, you didn't use the limo, you used the limos too much, pay back the money.
I mean, I think he's answered that question on numerous occasions.
Or Bardish Chagger more precisely.
But just to the broader point about question period, I mean, I actually look forward to it. It's an important part of our democratic process. Just some quick stats for your viewers. In the 2 years since being elected, the Prime Minister's answered 1,400 questions. In the same period of time, Mr. Harper answered 900. So just a high level. I think that is a measure
staffer had to go through and add that up, eh?
We want to be sure that we're held accountable.
Right.
And I always look forward to improving my decorum, the way I conduct myself and my colleagues do. I want it to be a constructive hour where the public can get into some important issues.
All right. Speaking of important issues, do you sense the question period has an importance? Like your party's asking very different questions, and maybe in some ways better questions.
Well, thank you, Don. We're working really hard because we're here for Canadians. And so the issues that we're hearing in our constituencies, the issues that we're hearing across this country, Jagmeet Singh is traveling the country. He's listening to the issues on the ground. We're bringing those issues to Parliament. It's disappointing when we don't get answers. It's disappointing when we get platitudes. We had an all-woman QP today. We all wore black, and it really was a nod to the Me Too and to the Time's Up movement. And we asked questions about women that are incredibly important, and we didn't receive answers. You know, this really has to become more about an actual exchange of policy, of things that are going to make people's lives better, not talking points.
I've been here for 18 years, and we've always said that, and nothing changes. All right, thank you all.
Good to see you,
Have a
Don.
great discussion. We'll see you again next week.